All right, hello everyone. This is Gentry Estes, sports columnist at the Tennessean, and I'm joined by,
Erik Bacharach, Titans beat writer for the Tennessean.
and we are zooming here on a wonderful Monday afternoon to go over really a fascinating, weird, wonderful NFL draft this last weekend. Erik, having covered these before, do you really feel like you're ever going to cover one quite like that again?
No, and Gentry, honestly, I'm kind of just blown away and shocked that this thing went off without any sort of major technological snags. I was expecting, some type of, if it wasn't a power outage at a, GM's home, it was going to be some type of delay. But we really didn't see much of that, and I think so much of it was a testament to just the job that they were able to do with this remote draft. It was really cool. I think a lot of the elements from what we saw in this virtual draft really probably should be incorporated going forward when it came to, just things like the intimacy factor that we got with watching all these players and general managers do all of this from home. We wouldn't have seen truly how this quarantine has taken hold in the Vrabel household if not for this draft. We kind of got a sneak preview at that on the opening rounds night. So it was really cool, really interesting, and I don't think we'll ever see anything like it again.
The NFL is so buttoned up on how they do things. I thought it was great to actually get that visual to to personalize some of these executives. These are visions you would normally never get a chance to see. And I think they had some fun with it. I think John Robinson had some fun with it, obviously, at the Vrabel house they did on Thursday night. But for the Titans, in terms of the actual draft, let's kind of go over how we think they did, put a grade on it, and kind of what jumped out to you about this class. Sure.
I'll start, Gentry. I just looking at what they did, at what they addressed, at what they didn't address. It's always so hard to put a grade on a class, just a day or two after its arrival. But again, just looking at face value, what they did, I gave it a B+. I think there's a lot to like. I think there was, there were some head scratching moments in there. But I think if you think about it just for a little while longer, you could kind of see the sense of it. And again, I think if, let's say they wind up landing a Jadeveon Clowney, you pair that with this class, and I think our perspective on the class as a whole is influenced. To me, the most interesting thing about the draft of the Titans is just that if you had told me from the outset that the Titans would have landed Christian Fulton and Isaiah Wilson, I would have said that's great. Get Fulton in the first, Wilson in the second, and you're on your way. And lo and behold, it was actually the opposite order. So it was interesting just sort of how all of that unfolded. I know you've got an interesting take on Wilson. Mine is just that I think this is a draft class where if you wanted an offensive tackle, you really kind of had to take one where the Titans did. We could look at the pick itself, but if they wanted an offensive tackle, the drop off after pick 29 or shortly thereafter was steep, much steeper than the drop you would have seen at a position like cornerback, edge rusher, some of these other positions that the Titans might have looked at. So I see the sense in drafting a tackle there, even though you did re-sign Dennis Kelly, who you invested 3 years in, and very much, I think at this point is the leader in the clubhouse to be the starter at that position. We'll see how that unfolds with Wilson, but I just think to get those two players in the first 2 rounds, the order was a bit puzzling, but the fact that they got them, despite the order, I think is the bottom line, and I think they did well in that regard.
I would say B to B-. You mentioned Isaiah Wilson. That felt like a reach to me at the time, although you make a good point, and it did work out. They were able to get Chris Fulton in the second round, and they were kind of gambling on that because there were some corners still available. Only 2 corners went in the second round before Fulton did. I think the Titans got a little lucky getting what they got there. Fulton was an A+ pick to me in the second round where they got him. So I think that kind of evened that out. But really, as you look at the class, I think it's fine. They checked all the boxes. It's just hard. You don't come away from this draft saying, oh my gosh, they did such a great job. They've changed the whole outlook. They kind of did what they needed to do, but as has been the case this whole offseason, it's hard to look at them and say, how are they better? How are they better right now than they were at the end of last season? You mentioned Jadeveon Clowney. That would change the dynamic significantly, and I think we certainly noticed they didn't draft an edge rusher in the draft. That kind of jumped out.
That was pretty obvious, and yeah, like you said, I don't think there's any way that we look at the first 3 picks from this year's draft and say that they're capable of maybe having the impact that last year's 3 did, just with the way Jeffrey Simmons burst onto the scene, the way A.J. Brown, was a rookie of the year, offensive rookie of the year caliber player, and then Nate Davis filling in as starting right guard. Maybe Wilson wins the starting right tackle position. Christian Fulton, I think, has a high ceiling, but is still young, probably has some developing to do, and the shorter offseason or whatever we have of an offseason could hinder that development a little bit. And then obviously Darrington Evans was not drafted to be, the number 1 running back. So we're not going to see maybe quite the impact. But again, that's not why they brought him in. They brought him in to be a complement to Derrick Henry. So we're just looking forward to a year from now. It'll sort of be interesting to size up this class versus last year's class. Again, if another shoe is to drop in the form of Jadeveon Clowney, I think that influences our perspective on this. I think the conversation about whether or not the Titans improved from the end of the past season until now changes dramatically. And, I think, John Robinson kind of gave some lip service when he said that the draft is its own entity. Having a big free agent out there like Clowney doesn't affect anything. But I think for sure could have affected things early. I think they drafted somebody late. I don't think that has any bearing on that position, but I think for sure it had to have been somewhere in his mind when the Titans were on the clock first couple of days. So it'll be interesting to see how all of it unfolds, but I'm still kind of reserving judgment for as long as I can.
You can make a case that the Titans didn't draft a single player that's going to be starting in the first game. It's going to be in the starting 11 in the first game. That really might happen. You might even say that's likely, depending on if Fulton goes to the slot or whatever.
Yeah.
But all right. Well, it was an entertaining weekend, and that's all from us. Be sure to follow our coverage at Tennessean.com and keep an eye out for our podcast. Erik and I are going to delve a little deeper into this on this week's edition of Talking Titans. So keep an eye out for that. We'll see you.